standing on the footbridge over the Clatterford. Clatterford, what a wonderful word that is. It just rolls around the tongue. And we are looking into the Buchan Valley, a very large water catchment area whose subsoil is chalk. In the early stages, the Nuckley flows through water meadows that's probably unchanged in 1,000 years. As it reaches us here at Clatterford, it's flowing through a meadow called Courtmead. In walking the highway, we come to four ways. It's a crossroads. We shall only go about 50 yards and we shall meet up with a ford on our tributary. Here we arrive at a second ford, and it's apparently unnamed, but I always call it a paper mill ford. I don't think you can get a picture of the sluice, but we're stood by it and you can certainly hear it. Leaving the area of the paper mill, to rejoin the Nuckley, we've got to travel the full length of Miller's Lane, and we shall rejoin the Nuckley in Castle Street. That's our next objective. Having walked the length of Miller's Lane, we again join the Nuckley, and the Nuckley in Castle Street runs together with the road for a distance of about 40 yards, quite a long ford. Where the Nuckley disappears under the footbridge, it is joined by the Carriesbrook Mill stream. Let's start at the pond. That's the first we shall meet of the Nuckley. When the Kents had the mill, they had small boats on the mill pond. They always had loads of ducks on there, and the ducks laid their eggs in the water. And we used to always put our hands down. It was only about 18 inches, 2 foot of water. We get the duck's eggs, put them in your pocket. So really, you never cost you anything for the boat. If you were to come down Carriesbrook High Street early in the 19th century, let's put a date on it, 1817, when you got to the bottom of the High Street, opposite Spring Lane, you would have come to a ford exactly the same as you see in Castle Street today. This is officially the Priory Mill Pond, but most people call it the Eight Bells Pond, and it's probably the oldest pond on the Nuckley. I don't think it's changed much at all, certainly not in the last century or perhaps a century and a half. That was a bakery, and people by the name of Hibbard kept it as a bakery, and of course the flour loft was above the bakery itself, so the vehicle pulled up and the flour was pulled up and into the watch court. If one of our ancestors walked down here a century and a half ago, recognise it immediately. A hand on the wall. This wall, I'm quite certain, was built from the stonework of the old priory. The children of Carriesbrook years ago always came, put their hand on the wall and make a wish. If you look up at the tower, there's two figures, and again, nobody's absolutely certain, but they think they were introduced about 1820. Well, we're in the churchyard of St Mary's at Carriesbrook, and this little lane here will take us through to what is known as Carriesbrook Priory Pond. This is the Priory Farm Pond, not the Priory Mill Pond. The farm itself was about 160 acres. This, of course, is the footpath that you can take today right into Newport and not be bothered by all the traffic of the main road. Following the Nuckley makes a lovely, peaceful walk. We are now passing the truncated end of Westmill Pond. Westmill Pond was 4 acres in extent, and it was truncated by building Wellington Road across it. Wellington Road, but we shall have to go down almost to the junction with Carriagebrook Road to meet up with the Lootley. The southern edge of the mill pond has been infilled and houses built on the southern end. By putting the Lootley in this so deep a channel, it's absolutely drained the former mill pond. It was by far the largest mill pond on the Lootley. There's a fish ladder. There we are at the junction of Wilver and Caesars Road, and we meet up again with the Lootley as it flows beneath the road itself. You could pass in a car and not realise it's here, couldn't you? Actually, if we were stood by these trees, the Westminster Pond would be on our left, and as we walked in, you'll be walking up this path that you still can walk up today, but it's a road, and look across the mill pond, and you'll be looking at Caesar's Mead. That's the Westminster Mill, and if we were to come in that side, we'd be looking across the pond. Beautiful, isn't it? That was a bone mill. And when it was actually boiling the bones, you could smell it all across Newport. That wooden extension on the front of the building is called a lucum. It was just ordinary banks of the stream, and it ran down through there. And none of this was here, of course. It was just virtually running through a field. On the bottom of Mill Street and on this corner of Westminster Lane stood the home mill. And it had a mill pond originally, but the waters from the Westminster Mill ran almost immediately into the mill pond of the home mill. This is the Town Gate Pond. It was never a mill pond. Coming in, you give the animals a drink, and going out, you would also give the animals a drink. The Lootley, the pathway is still running down there now, but the mill pond was alongside of the stream. Of course, mill pond would have been much larger, would have come right back, and of course, it was infilled here to build the viaduct to carry the freshwater train. And of course, if you had come down Hill from the north of the island, prior to 1400, there was no bridge at all. It was a ford. And you would have to come round on a footpath, right round here, and pick up this footpath here. This is one of the oldest bits of Newport that you still walk. This is the New Langton site. They were brewers, and very, very big brewers at that. From here down to the quay, the Lootley is a canal. Of course, originally the Newport Quay extended the entire length of C Street, and at both ends there were open courtyards, and I think you can still see there Coal Wharf. In 1800, there was only one obstruction. As you come into Little London, there was a footpath, and there was just a footbridge over this canal. None of these buildings span that river. All the way up here on the left-hand side from where we're looking was warehouses. Of course, it's changed so dramatically. Ponds have been filled in, but if you're going to walk from Newport to Carriagebrook, do follow the Lootley up. You'll find that it's a very, very pleasant walk, devoid of cars and everything else, and it makes a lovely walk. And I do suggest that anybody walking from Newport, even if they're going to Carriagebrook Castle, to follow the Lootley up, and they will enjoy it. There's so much to see, and I'm hoping you'll get that from the film.